Hello everyone, Omni here, and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've made a video for you guys, and I finally found something that I wanted to make a video on, right? Something that interests me and something that I thought was cool. And maybe if you were on the fence about this game, maybe I can persuade you, right? So this is Wuchang, Fallen Feathers. It's a newer Souls-like that's just come out. And I ended up playing through it on PC and beating it on PC, and I just loved it, right? Like I loved this game. I didn't really listen to any of that stuff that people were saying about like the frame rate that was going on because it's made in UE5, or the more recent complaints people have had where they've said that certain bosses are quote unquote unkillable, which basically just means that they don't like vanish into feathers like most other enemies do when you kill them. You just kind of get exhausted, and then there's like some new lines of dialogue and stuff. And then all the other stuff about because of that, parts of the story were retconned. Like I didn't listen to any of that. Let me tell you what, dude, I just wanted a video game to play that was enjoyable to me, and this was it, right? That's the only reason I play video games, is because they're enjoyable. They're supposed to be fun. We're not supposed to sit here and hyperanalyze every little thing that's wrong with the game, right? If it works and the performance is good and the mechanics are great and it's fun, why not, right? So that was this game for me. And I thought I would go over kind of what this game is, all the things you can do, the build variety, the skill tree, the weapons, armor, items, leveling, the different mechanics in this game that make it stand out from other Souls-likes, all that different kinds of stuff, right? So let's start with the weapons and the armor and the items, right? So in this game, there are 5 weapon types. There are long swords, there are axes, there are twin blades, there are one-handed swords, and there are spears. All of these are viable, every single one of them. If I had to give my opinion on which was the weakest, in my opinion, I think it's one-handed swords. I think one-handed swords are the weakest, but that's just because I haven't played with them as much as any of the other ones. I played with long swords for a really long time. I did maybe an act or two with dual blades. Same with spears, maybe an act or two, and I ended up beating the game with axes. I didn't use one-handed swords very much, but I don't want to come in here and tell you don't use one-handed swords because they're trash. I don't think they're trash. I think I didn't have the build for it. So I'll just go on record saying each one of these weapon types are viable, right? And it pretty much kind of just comes down to what you want to do, just kind of like any other Souls. Like, well, are you more of the, unga bunga, make everything go bonk, type of character? Well, then you're gonna want axes. You might even dive into long swords, if that's what you want. If you want to be more dexterous and more agile, well, then you might want dual blades or one-handed swords. If you want to do feathering damage, you definitely want to use one-handed swords because these seem to excel in that. And if you want something akin to a quality build, well, then you probably want to use spears because spears are really good when they scale with both strength and agility, right? There are only four like actual attributes in this game that have to do with the damage that your weapon outputs, and that's right over here on the right: strength, agility, magic, and feathering. So they really simplified it to where there's not a whole lot of stuff that you need to worry about. But we'll get into that a little bit more when I talk about leveling, because you don't level the same in this game as you would a traditional Souls-like. But in terms of what it is that you want to do with these weapons, that really just comes up to you. I mean, I have gone with just using a great axe and going through the whole game with just a great axe. Or you could use both a great axe and a great sword or a long sword, or some other weapon, and you could gain access to swift draws, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But the weapons feel really good. Axes feel good. They're not super slow, but they're slow enough to where you can't just go super unga bunga on stuff. You definitely have to watch your stamina drain as you're using them, but they hit like a truck, especially if you've got them built up how they need to be built up, and you're using the correct tempering and all the different kinds of stuff. Axes hurt. They hurt a lot. Same for greatswords. Not as much as axes, but enough to where what they don't have in, what they might lack in power, they make up for with utility, which we'll also get into a little bit later. So these are really good as well. Dual blades are not as fast as you would think, right? When I saw dual blades, I was thinking like, and this is only like frame of reference that I have to compare it to. I was thinking like dual daggers in like Elden Ring. If you take that kind of speed, like that's what I was thinking. They're not quite as fast as that, but they still, again, it's one of those things where what they lack in strength, they make up in utility, which we'll get into as well, because there are some mechanics that make all these things worth using, right? Let's see. And then, like I said, spears are a good middle ground. They're a good middle ground between strength and agility. And you can even add some feathering damage in there later on if you want to. They're just they're really good for people who like quality builds, is what I would say. They're good for that. And then one-handed swords, again, I have to imagine, and this is kind of me speculating, but it's kind of more of an educated guess than anything. If you're really trying to go into like the magic damage and the feathering damage and stuff, that's what these are good for. They are pretty decent as DPS weapons, but I think that DPS damage is determined by how much feathering or magic, how much of the feathering or magic stat that you have on you, how high that stat is. So the higher it is, I think the more damage that you end up doing with them, but they're still like viable, is kind of my point, right? But with that being said, the other cool thing about weapons is that each weapon has 2 different weapon arts. So as you can see from my Empyrean Great Axe here, I have Empyrean Crash. That's my L1 if you're on PlayStation, or LB if you're on Xbox. And then I have Whirlwind. That's my L2 or my left trigger. But the thing about it is that while L1 is not interchangeable, L2 is. L2 is called a discipline. That's the name of the skill. And you can gain those by purchasing them on the weapon type specific skill tree, which we'll also get into a little bit later on. But what's cool about it is that it's not just like, because I'm using an axe, every axe is going to have Empyrean Crash. That's not how it works. Every weapon is different. A regular halberd has Mighty Blow. There was this other one that I had on PC where it's, I think it was called like Dragon Breath or something, and it basically put the axe down, and it spit out fire like a flamethrower, right? And that was specific just to that axe. No other axe could get that. Now it's its weapon art. So it's not about necessarily what axe does what, or it's not necessarily just about using an axe. It's about what axe does what, right? Because like if I wanted to use this Empyrean Crash, which I think is like, I think it might be like a combo move that you can insert into combos to get even more damage and stuff, especially if you got them stunned and stuff, right? I could use that. Or if I just wanted one big giant hit, well, I've got Mighty Blow here, so I could just go and do the Mighty Blow, and you know, that could be like an ender for a combo, and then I back off and, you know, recuperate and all that different kinds of stuff. So there's utility between different weapons, right? Same thing with like this. Like this one has Dash Strike. This one has Whip Dance. So it's about what you want to be able to do as you're doing combos. And then there's more things that kind of go into that we'll go into after a little bit here. But yeah, there is variation between even the weapons, which is cool, right? But then you also have, like, you know, your armor and stuff. And your armor is like super important, because not just because it mitigates damage, but because, I don't know, to me, and this is just to me, armor actually felt like important in this game. You can't upgrade armor, but it actually felt like you wanted to put on different pieces of armor. Not necessarily for the mitigation, but for the resistances. For instance, you see here, if you look at my resistances, right now I have on this Tiger of Fortune outfit. If you look at burn, burn is minus 23.09, which means if anybody's doing burn damage to me, it's going to proc super easy. It's going to proc mad easy if I have this outfit on. But let's say I wanted to use like a soul ritual robe. Now my burn is 44.03. That's up 67.12 from this tiger outfit that I've got on. And you get to a point where this stuff actually like matters, because you'll get into areas where you're dealing with more than one status ailment at a time. That's one of the benefits that I also liked about this game, kind of a side rant here, but about this game over Elden Ring, because Elden Ring had like all these different stats ailments that you could go through, but you never really dealt with more than one at a time. And some of them you didn't really deal with at all, like sleep. Sleep was like not really something you dealt with. But in this game, you could be dealing with burn on top of frostbite, on top of corruption, or corruption on top of despair, on top of paralysis, or a big one that I've dealt with later on in the game is corruption on top of despair, on top of blight. And you've got to deal with all these things at the same time. So your armor matters, if for nothing else, for the resistances that are put on the armor. And so you're going to be changing armor. You're not going to be just rocking the same armor set throughout the entire game. You're definitely not, simply because of the resistances. On top of that, the mitigation matters. It matters less than the resistances, but it matters enough to where you would change it for that as well. Some bosses that you fight are going to do crazy slash damage, and you're going to need to be able to deal with that. Or they're going to do crazy fire damage or crazy lightning damage, and you're going to need to deal with that. So you're going to be switching armor very frequently, which I liked. But if you, in terms of like, fashion souls or anything like that, there's a transmog in this game. So, you can just equip what you want to equip, press triangle or Y, and then, just make it whatever outfit you want it to look like. And now she looks like that. And at any point you don't want that on there anymore, square, she's back to that, right? So armor is definitely important. Your pendants are definitely important. You only get 3 throughout the entire game, and you'll probably switch these up less often, but there are some that you'll definitely have to put on, like this one. Dracula's pendant slightly reduces damage taken and prevents beast roars from making you flinch. There are certain enemies in this game that roar, and when they roar, you get stunned, and you have to like mash circle or B. And if you don't do it in time, they basically get a free hit. This prevents that. Now, if they roar, you kind of stagger a bit just for a quick second, but then you can just go to town on them if you want to go to town on them. That's your right, but you can only do that if you've got this pendant on. Otherwise, you're stuck mashing a button. So it just depends on the situation. They're very situational when it comes to equipping them, but they are definitely important. Then you've also got your spells. Your spells, you don't really buy spells. You can find some spells, but most of the spells that you get, you'll get from defeating bosses. Like I've got this Echo right here. I don't even know how to say that guy's name, but you'll get this Echo. Like I got this from beating him. And then the further I got into the game and beating the game, I got more. I got all this stuff from beating either really powerful enemies or bosses, pretty much. This is the one you start with. I think I got that from the Panda Merchant. But yeah, all these other ones, just got from defeating some kind of powerful enemy, right? And magic is definitely viable. It is definitely viable in this game. You have to build towards it like anything else for it to be viable, but it is viable. So you can sit back in the cut if you want to. But the thing about magic is that magic is not restricted behind like a mana bar or an FP bar. It's restricted by this resource called Skyborne Might, which we'll get into here in just a second. But I guess we can actually get into it now, because I've kind of gone over weapons and armor and everything. I'll go on the items a little bit first. and then I'll go into the Skyborne Might. So when it comes to items, you only get 4 slots for your items. You obviously you got your flask, you've got your temperance thing, which we'll get into a little bit later. This is basically like your weapons buff, basically, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. But this is like the buff that you can put on your weapon. And then you have like just 2 free slots. And there's all different kinds of things that you have in here. I mean, you've got a lantern, you've got some just regular items that give you more health, they fully restore your health. You have items that reduce the stamina cost for a certain amount of time. You have items that boost mitigation of certain ailments. You have items that boost stamina discovery. You have little kunai that you can throw. These are like the little colored stones in Dark Souls to help you remember remember the path. So like if you're getting turned around, you can put these down, and then if you come back to it, oh, I've already been here, so I'm not supposed to be here, that kind of thing. Fire pots. A bone whistle, which is like a soapstone, a summon soapstone for co-op. A feather pearl, which is like a homeward bone, basically. But this one, there's 2 of them, so I don't have the other one. But this one makes it to where you can return to the last spot that you rested without losing any of your red mercury, which is basically souls. But it does increase your madness, and we'll also get into madness as a mechanic as well. But you have all these different kinds of items and stuff, and from what I found, these things, these things, fixed origin pills, these things are going to matter a lot. These lantern fruits are also going to matter a lot. Just going to highlight some of the ones that really matter. This is going to boost the effect, your status effect, it's going to boost your resistance for all your status effect for a certain time. Super important. I think it's like 100. I think it boosts everything up by like 100. These are also very useful. Reduce your stamina costs. So if a axe swing took 80, now it might take 60. Now it might take 50. Who knows? But it just allows you to get more hits in whenever you use these. I think the amount of time is like 30 and then like 45 or 60. I could be wrong on that. But like your items are definitely important. You want to curate your items to whatever the situation is that you're going through. But yeah, and then you have this other thing like maddening incense, which will increase your madness to full, and it'll prevent the loss of madness for a time. And we'll also, like I said, we'll get into madness here in a second. But items are definitely important. So like this whole thing right here, these whole like 2 tabs right here are super important when it comes to first starting out with what you want to do with your character, making your build. But then you kind of get into a little bit more of the mechanic side of things. So if you look there on the bottom left of the screen, you'll see what kind of look like, I mean, it looks like grass to me, but I guess they're feathers, right? And I'm actually going to use this item. Aha, and then now it's lit up, right? So that is Skyborne Might. That is a resource that you get from a multitude of things. If you perfect dodge, if you parry, though there are prerequisites behind that, you might have to have something in the tree, in the skill tree, that allows you to get a Skyborne Might back for parrying. It could be from using an item like this. It could be from a certain hit in the chain. So like maybe maybe the 3rd or 4th hit in that chain gives you some Skyborne Might back. That might be a thing. There's a numerous amount of ways that you can get Skyborne Might, but you need that stuff basically because if you look at my weapon arts and my discipline, there's 2 dots underneath it. That's telling you how much I need to have a powered up version, to have a powered up version of that move. Because see, I can just use it right now, and it does what it does. But if I use it while I have Skyborne Might, oh, that's a lot different, right? It's more powerful. It's more flamboyant, I guess, flashy, if you want to say. And it does more. So you want to have it. You want to have Skyborne Might when at all possible, right? That's what's going to make your weapon arts and your discipline's more powerful. That's what's going to make your spells more powerful and allow you to actually use spells. This is the mechanic that spells are locked behind. So if you don't have any Skyborne Might, you're going to hear that noise. Can't use the spell. You have to have Skyborne Might to use spells, right? But then you also have this other thing. You notice it's kind of like behind the feathers there. It's kind of glowing red. And it's like, okay, well, what's that? That means something. That is the madness gauge. Now, I'm going to try to explain this as best as I know how to explain this. The madness gauge is a risk-reward mechanic. The lower your madness, the less damage you do. Not to say that you do less than 100% damage. You're always going to do at least 100% damage. But the less damage you do, the less souls you gain, or red mercury in this case, and the more, I guess, safe you are, right? Enemies are not as dangerous the lower you are, but the more you die, or the more you kill certain kinds of enemies, the more that goes up. And as you can see here, there's a limit to it. Right now mine is at 119. When that limit gets to be at the top, the next time you like respawn or something, it'll say madness descends. And basically what that does is it increases the amount of damage that you do, but it also increases the amount of damage that you take. It increases the amount of red mercury that you get from enemies. It also allows you to employ certain skills, or rather it gives a buff to certain skills that you might obtain within the skill tree, that we'll get to once we get into the skill tree. And it also does this final thing where if you die while at full madness, you'll die, you'll respawn, you'll go back to where basically your bloodstain is at, where your souls are dropped. And instead of going to pick it up, this inner demon, this kind of evil doppelganger of yourself, spawns. And you have to kill this thing in order to get your souls back. If you do not kill this thing and this thing kills you, you lose all your souls. But if you're able to kill it, you gain your souls back on top of some other item, whether that's a bloom branch or a divine gift or a fragment of a divine gift. And these two items, a divine gift and fragment of divine gift, those are used at certain statues to quell the madness buildup, basically remove it. So this is a mechanic that is worth using because of what it can do for you in terms of combat, right? So in order for me to show that to you, we have got to go to the skill tree. So like other Souls likes, the basic idea behind leveling is that you go, you kill enemies, you kill bosses, you use the little items that give you souls or red mercury or whatever, and then you spend that on levels. In this game, it's a little different, just a tad. In this game, you don't put points into, how can I say it? You don't put points into a specific stat, right? Like you don't just put it into strength or into vitality or into agility or into feathering or into magic. Like you don't do it, like there's not a list, right? Instead, you have this giant freaking skill tree. This is a huge skill tree. Now, there might be something actually over there that I didn't get. Yeah, there's more over there. I kind of wish I would have. Yeah, I need to do that. So I'll do it later. But anyway, so you start right here in the middle. This is your starting point. From here, you can go in any direction. But you'll notice that unless you're, other than going left, each one of these is the start point of each of the 5 weapon types. So top left is axe, top right is dual blades, to the right is one-handed blades, bottom right is spears, and bottom left is great swords, or long swords. If you go to the left, that's the more like utilitarian type stuff, the more utility type stuff. So you have stuff like Skyborne Call, which gives you more maximum stacks of Skyborne Might, which you'll need. There's also things like mana capacity and mana potency, which is basically getting more Estus flasks and increasing the potency of those flasks. And then you've got these other things like this, which matter if you're using like swift draws. So like this one is while above 50% madness, you take greatly reduced damage while performing swift draws. And swift draws also become much more difficult to interrupt. Now, a swift draw, just to show you really quick, is when I'm attacking and I'm in the middle of a combo and I hit L3 or I tap in the left stick, whatever platform that you're on. I immediately switched from my axe to my longsword in one fell swoop, and I could have continued the combo. So let's just do it with longsword now. I'm going, swift draw, and we're dead. I didn't mean to do all that, but but you get the point, right? You immediately switch from one weapon to the next. And it doesn't matter if you have two axes on or two longswords on or any combination of any weapon type. It will always do that. But you need... Oh, there's that madness descends. There she is. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. She's going nuts. Hold on a second. She's acting crazy. Why are you acting crazy, girl? Yeah, I done had enough of you already. Oh. I'm trying to do a tutorial here. Oh, you see that? That was a clash. I need more stuff. I need you to go away. Oh, she killed me. Whatever. I didn't have any souls anyway. But that's that's what happens when your madness is too high. She spawns where your souls were, and you have to kill her. If you don't kill her, she takes all your souls. You're left at 0. If you do kill her, then and also once she kills you, your madness gauge resets. So now, I think we're back down to 0. Yeah, back down to 0. So that's how madness works. But as I was saying, that is what swift draws are. I don't believe you can do swift draws. Yeah, you can't do swift draws without Skyborne Might. You have to have at least one feather, one stack, I guess, of Skyborne Might in order to do swift draws. Otherwise, you just kind of do the regular combo, and it doesn't do anything, right? But anyways, back to what we were doing in the tree. You have just like, this is like I said, this is all like the utilitarian stuff that you'll definitely need to go down because it does stuff. But if you're able to maintain being at a certain madness level, you get things like this. You take greatly reduced damage while performing swift draws at 50% madness. If you use swift draws a lot and you incorporate them frequently enough into your game plan, you might want something like that. You might want to stay at 50% madness or above. That you want to have that risk reward mechanic so that you can benefit from it and benefit from this node, right? And then you also have things like, where is it at? I think that's right. No, it's temperance charges. What is that? That's that. There are also... Is it this one? Yeah. There are also things that increase the this little maddening sense thing. Let me go... Where are we at? This thing. So this thing, you can use this. If you use this, you'll notice now we're at 0. If I use this... Okay. That built me up about half. Right? So now I'm at half. And I could take advantage. I could take advantage of that now if I wanted to. I could also take advantage of that if I wanted to. I could also take advantage of that if I wanted to. Now, it's not just for this type of stuff. There's stuff in your skill trees that have to do with having a certain amount of madness as well. But that's basically the point. It's a risk-reward mechanic that you can benefit from, provided you have enough madness. But if your madness gets too high, there's a penalty behind it. Whether that's more damage taken, or having to deal with potentially losing all of your souls, or anything like that. But there's also a benefit to it with you deal out more damage, So if you're like a min-maxer like me, you'd want to be at top, so just so that you're doing the most damage. You're getting more souls from enemies that you're fighting, and you're able to take advantage of certain things like this on the skill tree. You can also build upon this little incense thing. You can increase the amount of charges that you get. You can also increase the duration of it. The duration has to do with how long that lasts, because I don't think that stays there forever, right? I think if you stay alive long enough, that it means it just goes down eventually. I think that's how it works. I'm not entirely sure. I've never really used the maddening incense like that, but you can build on that incense as well, right? And so after you have gone through here, there's other things like tempering, acupoints for the temperance, which we'll get into here in a little bit. There's a giant magic tree here. There's a giant feathering tree down here. And you're gonna want to like just gradually you'll come over here and you'll start to get stuff that you need. This part of the tree is what's gonna help out the utility part of your kit right here. The offensive part of your kit is gonna deal with one of these 5 trees here. Now, as you can see, I have split up between axe and longsword, but let's go into one of these trees and to see kind of how they work. So you'll always start with something like this at the beginning of a tree, right? So for axe, it's thunderous cleave. For dual blades, it's feather chaser. For this, it's biding time, etc., etc. Right? You'll always start with something like that, but then you'll go, and each tree will give you the optimal stats that you need to be able to wield the weapon correctly, right? So in this case, it would be strength and it would be endurance. There's also some vitality in here if you want to go down this route, but you see that it's split. And then you'll also have something like this where the third attack of an axe-like combo restores some stamina. That is something specific to this, I believe, to axe. So like if I went up here to this in the same position, you can consume 1 stack of Skyborne Might to quickly strike with heavy dual blades. Like your R2, you can charge that a lot quicker by consuming a stack of Skyborne Might. This also has that. I think that's what this is. One of these has that, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not, I don't know. But basically, there are different skills for different trees, and you can respec freely. If you want to respec the whole tree, just come over here to the middle. Boom, you've respected the whole tree, and you can go wherever you want to go with it, right? Now, in order for me to do this correctly, I'm going to just keep going down here. So then we go, and we get more kind of perks, I guess, buffs to the axe. And then if you go over here, you'll see these that kind of have kind of a, I don't know, maybe kind of a starish kind of shape. These are how you build upon the weapon, right? Or rather, enhance the weapon strength, +1s and +2s. So you will need red feathers. That's the upgrade material in this game. And if I'm correct, I believe it goes faint. Yeah, so we'll need 3 of those. I believe it goes faint, and then let's see. Let me go over here, and then brilliant. Yeah, and then brilliant, and then I think it goes to like lustrous. I think lustrous is the last one. So I think it's like faint, brilliant, and you'll do brilliant like a lot. You'll need a lot of brilliant to be able to get it to +9, but once you try to do it, get it up to +10, then you'll need a lustrous. I've only found a lustrous at like 2 different spots, but I digress. You need a lustrous in order to get to +10. But anyways, you'll just go through the tree as you need to go through the tree, and you will use your red mercury essence to fill out this tree how you need to fill it out. Now, some of these nodes, like this endurance node, this is just that it has 1 level. So once you activate it, it's finished. But then you have others that have 3 or even 5. And in order to complete the node, you've got to put 3 points into it in order to get it. But you get 3 endurance added to your stats. Then let's say we'll go over, so like this is strength, so we'll go over here. Then you have something like this. This is a whirlwind. This is a discipline. Once you unlock it, you can choose whether or not you want to equip it. But each discipline also has 2 little subcategory things on it that enhance the discipline. So this top one is variant 1. Whirlwind becomes more difficult to interrupt. Or variant 2, while above 90% madness, Whirlwind inflicts poise break buildup, which is a status ailment, when used with Skyborne Might. So anytime I have Skyborne Might and I'm above 90% madness, whenever I use this on something, not only is it going to do the damage that it otherwise would have done normally, it's going to inflict poise break upon them. Which, if poise break fills up, I think that does like a set amount of damage, kind of like how bleed does, right? So that's even more damage on top of if I have any buffs or anything, like any kind of if the weapon is like tempered, any damage that might do. So you can see like really quick how you could like stack damage, provided that you have the right things, like Skyborne Might or like Madness, right? If you're using the mechanics that you need to use. So like for me, I'm gonna do like that one. And you can pick both of them, right? You don't have to choose between one or the other. If you have both of them, then you just benefit from both of them. And that's fine. It costs an extra point, but that's fine. And so, you kind of just build how you would normally build. So let's see. For this one, it's Chop and Weave. The third attack of an axe light attack combo gains Clash. Now, what's Clash? Clash makes it to where whenever you and an enemy hit, it clashes, right? It's not a full deflect, but they kind of clash together, and you will mitigate some of that damage. So if on the third hit I hit an enemy who was attacking me, and that hit that the enemy would have done, the amount of damage that enemy would have done from that hit is 100 damage. Well, when I clash, that might knock 50, 75% off. And so now that hit's only doing 25, 50 damage from the otherwise full damage of 100. So Clash is really good. And there are some enemies that I won't say demand that you use Clash, but becomes so much more easy once you have either parried them or deflected something that they've or clashed with them, being able to deflect that damage. That way, not only are you deflecting some of that damage that's coming in, but you're also able to continue your combo, right? You don't have to stop because you clashed. The clash happens. It's something, think of a clash kind of like a partial parry. You don't get the full deflection of damage, but you do deflect some of the damage. It's not going to do the full amount of damage to you. That's one way you can think of it. But afterwards, you can just keep doing your combo. Provided you have enough stamina, you can just keep going. Or you can dodge back off, recuperate, whatever it is you need to do. So this occurs with the third hit of an axe light attack if I pick this, or if I go to a different weapon, it might be the second hit, or the fourth hit, or the final hit. Who knows? It's just dependent on the weapon and what the skill wants from you, right? Like what it tells you, what the prerequisite is, right? And so then we just, just keep building how we want to keep building. Let's see here. And then after the further down the thing, you might get these big ones, right? These big ones usually have one level, but they increase it by like 5. And then it might be strength, it might be agility, it might be vitality, it might be endurance, might be magic, might be feathering. Who knows? It just depends on the node, right? But those are the big ones. Those are the ones that you want. And then you have another discipline right here. So you're basically stating is that you just kind of go down this tree, this very large tree, I might add, and you pick what you want. You pick the disciplines. Like, here's another discipline. Here's another discipline. Here's another discipline. That's one we got. There's that one. So, I mean, that's like 4 disciplines in that one. Let's see. There's one right there for, what is this? I think this is for Twin Blades. There's another one for Twin Blades. That's not a discipline. That's a discipline for Twin Blades. Let's see what else we got here. That's a discipline for Twin Blades. Yeah, so it's looking like 4 per tree. It could be more, it could be less. I'm not too sure, but you kind of just, you know, start somewhere and just rock with it. And if at any point what you're using doesn't work, isn't viable, you're not feeling it anymore, just come back here to the middle and reset and go where you want to go. Now maybe I want to go on a longsword, so we just go on the longswords and do what we need to do. And I should mention, every time that you respec, not only is your red mercury essence retrieved, but your upgrade materials are retrieved as well. So I just spent like six faint red feathers on the axe, respect. I've got my 6 back, and I'm able to go to +3 on my sword, right? If I wanted to say, nah, I don't want to do that, and say I want to go here, 1, 2, 3. Now I got +3 and one-handed swords. So you don't lose. You're never at any risk of losing upgrade materials or having to go farm enemies or anything like that for these materials. These materials are in the world, and as you explore and as you continue through, progress through the main story, you'll find them. But if at any point you just don't want to use the weapon that you're using anymore, respec, go somewhere else, right? Now, that was kind of long-winded, so I kind of want to get into a couple other things before we end the video here, because I'm pretty sure I'm running out of time here. Yeah, about 40 minutes in. Okay, so on top of all that, you also have this thing called temperance. You don't have temperance immediately. I don't think you get it until you beat the first, like the first real boss. But temperance is basically your buff, right? It's the buff to your weapon. Now I should warn you beforehand, not everything can be tempered with everything. And so what I mean by that is, before we go into that, if we go over here and we go up, you got this thing called rapid temperance. While at above 50% madness, temperance accelerates its effects on your weapon, enhancing them faster than usual. This is a faster temperance, a faster buff, faster animation, basically. But then you have these other ones here, right? You've got bone needle, or it is a bone needle. You have poise break, lightning, frostbite, corruption, blight. But if you go down here, you also have arcane, magic, leech, and feathering, each doing something different, right? With what I have right now, so like I have an axe right now. I couldn't go here and go to like lightning and then gain that needle and then go here to my first acupoint and put lightning on there. It would be available, but I wouldn't be able to use it because I have an axe. And axes don't work. Axes don't work with the lightning bone needle. So I wouldn't be able to do it with that. But if I had a different weapon, say a longsword, I could. I could do lightning or something like that, right? So this first one is just going to be the element, right? And the element might be fire, it might be lightning, it might be frostbite, it might be regular blight, it might be corruption, it might be poise break. It's just some kind of status ailment that you're going to put on it to start. That's what it's going to be buffed with. After that, you've got these 4, which I can't do those other 3, but you've got these 4 other slots that you get as you go through the left side of the tree. You'll be able to unlock these. There are nodes that are able to unlock these. But these kind of just further buff your temperance, right? So I've got fire on, and then I've got this one on, which taps into my acupoint to slightly increase the strength control, basically boosting my strength scaling of the weapon that you're wielding. Or I've also got one for agility. And you have different things like this. Now these bottom 3 will be these, right? It'll be things like these. And then eventually you'll get that top one, and that top one will be a completely like a completely different one, right? Like, or actually it's just the last one that you get. It's the hardest one to get. But these 4 are kind of supplementary buffs to the first one. You have your first one, which is your main buff. That's what you're gonna proc if you hit the enemy enough with it, whether it's fire, lightning, corruption, whatever. These 4 build upon that. They give you extra perks, extra buffs to the buff, basically. And then you also have these things called benedictions. Benedictions are these stones that you can slot into any weapon. You don't have to unlock the slots, you just have to unlock the stones. But each stone does something different. Now, as you can see here, the 3 slots correlate to 3 different categories. You have an oath category, a memory category, and a wisdom category. There are some that are only able to be used in oath, some that are only able to be used in memory, some that are only able to be used in wisdom. But they each complement each other. So like the one I have, right, Skyborne Might reduces damage taken for a time. So the moment I gain Skyborne Might, the amount of damage that I take is going to be reduced for a certain amount of time. Or if I wanted to do something like this, increases damage dealt while at full health as well as damage taken. On top of that, it also has this little momentum perk on it, where it says 1 of 3. Killing an enemy increases your damage. Effect is lost upon taking damage. And in order for that top perk to activate, I have to have 3 stones on that use the momentum. And see, I don't even have it. I don't even have another momentum, so I couldn't show it. But once you do have the 3rd one, that lights up. And anytime that you have this weapon, not only are you doing, or not doing, or not only are you benefiting from all these effects over here in the different slots, but you're also benefiting from the set effect that's up there at the top. So it makes sense to maybe mix and match how you need to mix and match in order to gain a what's the word I'm looking for? In order to gain a desired outcome, basically. Maybe I want to kill an enemy and get increased damage from killing an enemy. Maybe I want this Skyborne Plume one, which makes it to where after gaining Skyborne Might, the power of my next attack is increased, right? And let's say I'm like really good, or not really good, but I really want to do like charge attacks and stuff with my R2s. So I want to make sure that I have this Skyborne Plume set effect active. That way, when I've dodged out of the way and I've gained my Skyborne Might, I can charge that boy up and get some extra damage out of it. You see what I'm saying? Or you can just choose to not have any set effect and just go by the 3 slots that you have and the effects that those have on you, right? So you're just kind of putting all this stuff together in a way that it benefits your playstyle, basically. The build system in this game gets pretty deep. It's not super deep. You know, it's not Stranger of Paradise deep. That's a whole other thing. But it's deep enough to where there's satisfaction in doing what you want to do with your builds, what you want with your character, and it makes going through all these different areas and these different biomes that you end up going through really worthwhile and really fun. And then I think last but not least, I'll talk about Invoke for a little bit. So one of the benefits to having no madness within your madness gauge is that you can use this thing called Invoke. What Invoke does is in the top right, it tells you your madness gauge how much you filled it up, basically. So right now I've got 60. It's halfway filled up, and the maximum is 119. I can't go past that 119. But I can buy some of these items at the cost of increasing my madness, right? So let's say I wanted like a couple of those. Well, it's going to cost me 40 madness, and now we're at 100. But I gained 2 soft rush flowers. And let's say I wanted some more of these. So I can only get 1 because I can't go past 119. And so now my madness is at 110. So I'm above the 90% now. But I gained that item. And so theoretically speaking, I could just like toss myself off this cliff, come back and either kill or die from the inner demon that pops up from where my souls are, be reset back down to 0, go back here, and just get more of what I want. Now that's got a limit and that's got a limit, but if I wanted more of these or more of these or more of these, which I would recommend getting, then I could just do that. And then just, okay, it's filled back up, throw myself off the cliff, either kill or die the inner demon after I respawn, go back down to 0, go back to invoke, get the items that I want. I could effectively do that if I wanted to do that. And there's no like real penalty to doing that. Because you don't find soft rust flowers or crimson lantern fruit or feather pearls and stuff out there like super frequently out there in the world. They're there. They definitely exist, but there's not like an abundance of these items out there. So maybe it sounds weird, but maybe throwing yourself off a cliff every now and again when you have full madness is not such a bad idea, because you can get up to however you can have up to whatever the maximum amount of madness is that you can build to. So if it's 120, you can get 6 of these if you want. If it's 180, you can get 9 of these. It's pretty much just up to how many you want. And the ones that you can't have right now, they're just stored in your inventory, or they're stored within your storage. And as you use them and respawn or whatever, they replenish themselves as they need to, right? So this is something that I would use, that I do use pretty frequently. Just when I need to overcome a hard boss, or maybe I need to just, maybe I've been exploring and I've got a bunch of red mercury and I need to just get back to where I was so I can spend it. I would go and get me a feather pearl for 30 madness. 30 madness is nothing. It really isn't. Because throughout the course of this game, it's going to be rising, it's going to be falling. It's going to be rising, it's going to be falling. Whether you do it intentionally by using the maddening instance, or whether it's because you're dying, and you're just up against a boss and the boss keeps killing you, or enemies keep killing you. It's like, it's going to rise no matter what. It's going to fall after it's reached its maximum, and you've got to deal with the inner demon. Like, it's one or the other. It's going to rise. So why not take advantage of it? Get you some soft rush, get you some crimson lantern fruit, get you some fixed origin pills, whatever it is, raven pills, small amount of HP, whatever it might be. Take advantage of the system. That's what it's there for. It's good to use. But with all that being said, that's kind of it. You also have like your discipline menu where you can go in here, and if I had any other disciplines, so like, yeah, I guess I respect. But once you have different disciplines, you can come here and go, and you can change them however it is that you need to change them. And it tells you, gives you information about whatever the discipline has to, different information about the discipline that you're choosing, right? And then that's equipped onto your weapon. And just because you equipped it to this weapon doesn't mean it's equipped to the other weapon. No, you've got to do all that manually. So what's on my Empyrean Great Axe is different than what's on my halberd, etc., right? But yeah, with all that being said, that is kind of like the bread and butter of how the mechanics and stuff work in this game. What I'll probably end up doing is, if people like this kind of thing, I'll probably just go through and I'll make a few builds. I definitely need to progress on PS5 anyways, because I need to have enough levels where I can show you all these different builds without being compromised by what I'm doing, or by limited by like my level is basically what I'm saying. If I'm a higher level, it'll be easier to show you this kind of thing. But yeah, that's basically Wuchang, right? It's a fun game. It really is. It's a fun game. Outside of any of that other noise that people are talking about on the internet, it is a fun game. And I mean, I would go so far as to, once you put all this stuff together, how you need to put it together, the only thing that makes this a Souls-like after that is the stamina bar. I am so serious. If they took this, once you get to a certain level, I'm going to say like, I'm going to be conservative here. I'm going to say like level 75 to like 80. Because that's a good enough level to where you should have multiple disciplines. You shouldn't be lacking for mana vases, be it quantity or quality of them. You should have at least two, you should have at least like 2 bone needles that you can use to temper your weapon with. You just have like enough, right? And your stats are up to where they need to be, so you're not even worried about that. But like 75 to like 80-ish. By the time you get to that point, you're gonna, depending on the weapon that you have, you're gonna be doing so much damage, and you're gonna be doing it so fluently, or fluidly, I should say, rather. You're gonna be doing it so fluidly that the only thing that stands between you playing an action game is the stamina bar. And like I said, there are skills in here on top of items that give you stamina back. So if you spec into that kind of stuff, you might not ever run out of stamina, provided you are playing a certain way. There are just so many different ways that you can do stuff in this game. There's so many different, like, if you can just, oh my gosh, there's just so many different ways that you can approach combat in this game. If you want to do the big bad axe and just unga bunga everybody and stun lock the hell out of everybody, you can do that. If you want to be more DPS oriented, while also dealing in magic and stuff, you can go one-handed swords. If you want something akin to a quality build, you can use spears and get the perks and stuff that come with spears and stuff. Like I said, I haven't even like gone over everything. Maybe I'll make a couple of other videos where like I go through each weapon type's skill tree, and we'll talk about the different skills and perks and attributes and stuff within there, so that you can fully like understand what each weapon type brings to the table. But yeah, I mean, like this game it's got me excited. Basically, I've already beat it once on PC, but the game is just, it's got me excited. It's got me feeling kind of how I felt when I first really got into Stranger of Paradise again. It's not as deep as Stranger of Paradise, but that's fine. Nothing needs to be as deep as Stranger of Paradise. Absolutely nothing. Nothing needs to be that deep. But it's deep enough to where it's like fun, and it's like, okay, I want to try this now, or I want to try this now. Okay, we did this, but now I want to do this. Maybe I want to make like a hybrid class. Maybe go into axe and then longsword, or go into one-handed sword and then spear, right? Like maybe I want to try that. Like there's a bunch of different ways that you can flip the puzzle pieces around and they all still fit, right? So I've gushed enough about this game for one day. It's going on 58 minutes. Please, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you want more videos like this, leave a comment down there telling me exactly what it is that you want. If there are certain build ideas that you have that you want me to maybe try to recreate, put that down there in the comments below as well. If you're new here and you like to see stuff like this, please think about subscribing. It's completely free. Doesn't cost you a thing. It helps me out. It makes me feel like people actually want to see this stuff, and encourages me to continue to do this kind of stuff. I do this stuff for fun anyway, but it's been a while since I've made a video, and I'd like to do more if at all possible, right? So yeah, with all that being said, thank you all for watching. This was Omni, and God bless you all. I hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and yeah, we'll see you soon. Bye bye.